The Senate will come to order. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa of Nueces, Hinojosa of Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, King, Kolkhorst, Menendez, Middleton, Miles, Nichols, Parker, Paxton, Perry, Schwartner, Sparks, West, Zaffarini.
A quorum is present. For those in the gallery, please rise for the invocation to be delivered by Pastor Brad Wilkinson of Christian Life Church in Austin, Texas.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor it is to stand before you today. Why don't we get this day started the right way with prayer? Would you bow your heads with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of this day and the opportunity that we have to serve. We acknowledge that all authority comes from you, and we humbly ask for your presence in this chamber. Lord, I ask that you bless these leaders who have been entrusted with the responsibility of serving the great people of the state of Texas. Grant them wisdom beyond their understanding, courage in the face of difficult decisions, and compassion for the needs of every community that they represent. May their debates be seasoned with grace and truth, their actions rooted in righteousness, and their hearts turned toward your purposes and the flourishing of all whom they serve. In times of division, let unity prevail. In times of uncertainty, let truth and integrity light the path forward. Remind each of us that true leadership is service, and the strength of this great state lies in the dignity, diversity, and dreams of its people. May your hand be upon this chamber today and every day, and may your peace rest upon all whom serve here. Amen.
You may be seated in the gallery. Thank you, Pastor Wilkinson. Members, if you have the opportunity, please greet Pastor Wilkinson as he exits the chamber. The Dean of the Senate moves to excuse Senator King on account of a death in the family. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Motion is adopted. The Dean of the Senate moves to dispense with the reading of yesterday's journal. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The motion is adopted. Chair recognizes Senator Eckhart to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Members, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Parag Kumar to the Texas Senate to serve as our Physician of the Day. Dr. Kumar has over a decade of experience delivering holistic and comprehensive primary care, prioritizing an integrated approach, bringing together traditional medicine with preventative care. Dr. Kumar, a family physician, serves patients of all backgrounds and conditions, from the acute to the overall wellness. He received his MD from Ross University and completed his residency right here in Austin in the Southwestern Family Medicine program. Dr. Kumar isn't the only doctor in his family, with his wife also serving our community as a physician. Together, they're the parents of 2 beautiful children. Dr. Kumar, thank you for joining us this morning, and on behalf of the Texas Senate, we welcome you here, and we look forward to getting to know you better. Thanks so much.
Following a message from the governor, the secretary will read the message.
To the Senate of the 89th Legislature, regular session, I ask the advice, consent, and confirmation of the Senate with respect to the following appointments: to be members of the Jefferson and Orange County Board of Pilot Commissioners: Brandy M. Bergeron, Beaumont; Sean M. Sparrow, Beaumont; Amy M. Townsend, Orange; Charles E. Charlie Holder, Beaumont; Craig J. Sherlock, Beaumont. Respectfully submitted, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, to nominations.
Chair lays out the following resolution. The secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 381 by West, congratulating the Duncanville High School boys basketball team on winning the University Interscholastic League Class 6A Division I state championship.
Chair recognizes Senator West on the resolution.
Yes, members, we're back. Again and again. This time it's because of basketball. You know, I stand peacock proud to recognize the 2025 Texas UIL 6A boys basketball champions, the Panthers of Duncanville High School. This dynamic team of athletes and scholars kept fans on the edge of their seats with a back and forth nail biter in the championship game. Duncanville, a perennial powerhouse. Let me say this again, Senator Huffman. A perennial powerhouse in Texas high school sports, captured the 6A Division I state championship trophy, defeating, where's Senator Alvarado? Senator Cook? Okay, I'm in mourning too. The Houston Bel Air team, 54-52, a nail biter. This is the district's sixth basketball championship, with championships in 1991, 1999, 2007, 2019, 2021, and this year, 2025. Prior to this season, the Panthers had not appeared in the UIL tournament since 2022. They returned this year with one goal in mind, Senator Nichols, to hoist a state title, and they did just that. The 2025 basketball 6A Division I champions, the Duncanville Panthers, finished the season with a record 27-7. Co-district champions of District 11 6A defeated Allen High School. Senator Paxton. Okay, all right. In the state semifinals, 77-74. I welcome the championship team that's led by my friend David Peavy, assistant coaches Christopher Thomas, Tyler Thompson, Derek Robeson, Jason Reed, William Mitchell, Emmanuel Cosme, and Robert Emery. And my friend Tamika Butts, the athletic advisor coordinator, for her guidance to these champions. I'll ask that y'all stand up so we can recognize you appropriately. These are the 2025 champions of Duncanville High School. Move adoption of Senate Resolution 381.
Chair recognizes Senator Paxton on the resolution.
Uh-oh.
Well, thank you, Senator West. I just can't go without acknowledging the greatness of the program there in Duncanville. So I graduated from Mansfield High School in 1981, when your grandparents were in school. But and I was a high school athlete, but I know both the men's and women's programs in Duncanville are not only perennial championship programs, they are legendary championship programs. And so congratulations on another great accomplishment. So proud to have these great athletes in Texas, and God bless you guys.
Senator West to close on the resolution.
Again, I want to say congratulations to each and every one of you young men. You'll be going on, some of you, how many seniors do we have on the team? Seniors, raise your hands. Okay, so we're going to have another perennial team, another team next year that will add to this legacy. But for those that are going on to college, you know what we expect out of you, nothing but greatness, given that Duncanville is the city of champions, not only on the football field or the basketball court, but also in the classroom. So we expect nothing less than you than excellence. I'd move adoption, Mr. President, of Senate Resolution 381.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Chair lays out the following resolution. The Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 376 by Nichols, recognizing the City of Palestine for its contributions to the Lone Star State.
Mr. President and
Senator
colleagues,
Nichols, you recognized.
it's my honor and privilege to recognize and welcome the residents of Palestine, county seat of Anderson County. Palestine was founded in 1846 and named by Daniel Parker after his former home in Palestine, Illinois. The arrival of the railroad in 1873 sparked a second boom, bringing prosperity, inspiring historic architecture that still defines the city today. Palestine has always been a transportation center and continues today with a strategic location serving Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. It remains a key shipping point via rail and highway. The city is home to two major Walmart distribution centers, including a regional distribution center that has over $2 billion in merchandise annually. Downtown, there are historic landmarks and attractions like the Texas State Railroad, the Texas Theater, Davie Dogwood Park, and have a lot of good friends up there. So please, members, please welcome Palestine, Anderson County, and I move adoption.
Chair recognizes Senator West on the resolution.
Senator Nichols, thank you very much for bringing this resolution. I may very well be on the wrong resolution, to be honest with you. But I think I'm on the right one. I think that
Palestine, Texas, and Anderson County.
I think I'm on the wrong resolution. I'll come back next time.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you, please.
Chair lays out the following resolutions. The Secretary will read the resolutions.
Senate Resolutions 379 and 386 by West, welcoming members of the Texas African American Lawyers Foundation and members of the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute to the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Senator West on the resolutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. I stand to recognize two groups. Firstly, the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute, which has empowered African American women who strive for diversity in training, mentoring, empowering, supporting, all with the focus of leadership. Members, you've got to remember that Barbara Jordan, whose portrait is over on the south wall, was a member of this body. I can recall when I first became a state senator back in 19, whatever it was, okay, that I went to see Barbara Jordan because she was over at the LBJ school. And in that discerning voice, she said, "Royce, you can't be a politician and a lawyer at the same time." Frankly, I didn't understand what she was talking about. But after a great deal of deliberation, I recognized what she talked about, is that we have to be ethical as public servants, not as politicians, but as public servants. And that she carried that belief with her and demonstrated that belief throughout her lifetime. And when I think about the foundation and the work that it's doing, it's in part focused on that. What do they stand for? This foundation: voter education, advocacy, healthy and safe communities. The Institute was founded and is currently led by women with live experiences these lived experiences are particularly powerful, members. Momentarily, because it emphasizes the importance of leadership from those who understand the challenges firsthand. When you combine the grassroots organizing, nonpartisan, and leadership development, you create not just leaders for today, but you also ensure they're capable leaders for the future, and they understand the importance of ethics as a part of that, Mr. President. The African American Lawyers Foundation, Southwest Region of Black Law Students Association, the Houston Lawyers Association, Joe Turner Leadership, and the Clifford Davis Legal Association that have been collaborating with Barbara Jordan Foundation. They advocate on numerous different areas: expanding access to the polls, advancing healthcare equity, promoting affordable housing and home ownership, ensuring equitable education policies, advocating for fair and just criminal justice reform, and fighting against anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. We're honored to have these groups today, and I'd ask that they stand so we can recognize both of them on these Senate resolutions. I'd ask that you stand now. I move adoption of Senate Resolutions 379 and 386.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolutions? Chair hears none. The resolutions are adopted. Chair recognizes Senator Campbell for a recognition.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Well, I'm looking for the Church-Cibolo Chamber. They were going to be up there. Are you there now? They have not made it up there. I've got to see them in the back hall. We all can appreciate what our chambers of commerce do to help our communities, and the Church-Cibolo Chamber of Commerce is exceptional in the work that they do. They came to visit today for their legislative day just to show those who have not been involved in the chamber what it's like to pass legislation and what the Senate does, the House does, and what happens in committees. So while they haven't made it here yet, I'll just make sure they hear my hello, and thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Chair lays out the following resolution. The Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 373 by Nichols, recognizing April 8th, 2025 as Texas County Treasurers' Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Senator Nichols on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Today, I'm proud to recognize county treasurers from across the state of Texas. There are 244 county treasurers in Texas, and 2/3 of them serve in rural counties. In addition to their statutory duties, county treasurers often meet the county's unique needs by providing versatile services, including human resource administration, auditing, payroll management. I would like to commend the state's county treasurers for their diligent financial stewardship and their invaluable contributions to the people and communities of the Lone Star State, and extend a best wishes for a memorable County Treasurers Day at the state capitol. I think, where are y'all? There you are. That's the county treasurers. I move adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Senator West, you're recognized for something other than an objection.
There is no objection. Mr. President, I would be remiss if I didn't welcome my county treasurer. Where's Pauline Medrano? Let me tell you a story about Pauline Medrano. It's only going to take an hour, okay? Pauline Medrano and I have been friends ever since college. Senator Nichols, when I got ready to run for the president of the student body at UT Arlington, Pauline was rounding the corner in the sub. She stands about like this on me. I was like this, okay? The fact is that she was involved in my race for president of the student body. I was involved in her race for city council, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here is what's real important to Senator Creighton. When I became the president pro tempore and had my governance for the day ceremonies, we had it right here in this chamber. And the person that introduced me was Pauline Medrano, okay? That's what type of friendship our families have had over the course of years. And now she's the county treasurer, along with these other county treasurers that do a great job in terms of managing our resources at the county level. I'd be remiss, Pauline, if I didn't say thank you, and to the rest of the treasurers for everything that you do. So I join my colleague in this particular resolution. Thank you, members.
Senator Nichols to close on the resolution.
Okay, let me also say thank y'all for what you do, and we appreciate all of you being here today, taking the time to come. So with that, I move adoption of the resolution. Thank you.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair recognizes Senator Hagenbu.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Speak on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just real quickly, I wanted to recognize a couple of my district's treasurers are here. So we have Gayla Hawkins from Grayson County and Becca McCullough from Parker County. Can you wave for me? All right, thanks for being here. We sure appreciate all you do to keep the financials in place in the county. I know it's a lot of work and it's an important public trust, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Chair recognizes Senator Kolkhorst for a recognition.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that all members' names be added to the resolution.
Is there objection? Hearing none. So moved. Chair recognizes Senator Cook for recognition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Members, today I am thrilled to welcome students and volunteers from the Acres Homes neighborhood in Houston who are here for Acres Homes Community Advocacy Day. And y'all can go ahead and stand up. so we can recognize you if you're able. We're joined by students from Carver High School, Yes Prep White Oak, and Yes Prep Northline. These young leaders are the bright future of one of Houston's most historic communities. Acres Homes produces power players, y'all, so we're excited to have you here today. Affectionately known as the 4-4, like the Metro bus line that runs through the neighborhood, Acres Homes recently celebrated 4-4 Day on April 4th to honor their past, present, and future. For the last 115 years, this community thrives because of its people, the friends, neighbors, and advocates who call Acres Homes home. I want to thank and recognize the educators, organizers, and students speaking up for their neighbors today and stepping in as advocates for this community. We are so glad you're here. Welcome to your state capitol, and members, help me welcome them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair lays out the following resolution. The secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 377 by Johnson et al., recognizing April 8, 2025 as Mesquite Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Senator Johnson on the resolution.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members. Get to know the city of Mesquite, home to a professional soccer team, professional rodeo, the Mesquite Arts Center, of a city with 76 parks, a leader in renewable energy, and was given an award recently for receiving over $1 billion in commercial investment in 2023. We have leaders from that great city here. Please join me in welcoming the distinguished guests from the city of Mesquite here with us today at the Capitol to celebrate Mesquite Day. Mesquite has nearly 150,000 residents and all that cool stuff in a city of 150,000 in the greater Dallas County area. Today, we are joined by leaders from several key institutions that shape the Mesquite community. From the city of Mesquite, we have here Mayor Dan Alleman. We have Councilmember Elizabeth Rodriguez-Ross, Councilmember Tandy Burrows, Councilmember Cliff Kahili, and the Assistant City Manager Chris Sanchez. We also have from their wonderful school district, Mesquite ISD, the trustees Robert Seward and Kevin Carbo, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Janine Fields, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Leslie Feinglass. We have also from the Mesquite Chamber of Commerce, Alexander Helgar, their president, and multiple leaders of Leadership Mesquite, a long-standing civic program that's now in its 30th year of preparing the next generation of community leaders. Members, please welcome me in giving a warm Texas Senate welcome to these leaders from the city of Mesquite. Welcome to your capital.
Chair recognizes Senator Hall on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Johnson, for bringing this resolution, because I rise today to welcome our special guest this morning from the city of Mesquite. Since its founding in 1873, Mesquite has grown from a rugged settlement named for its hardy mesquite trees into a vital part of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. The Mesquite Chamber of Commerce has been pivotal throughout this economic growth, and now with over 2,500 businesses and a workforce exceeding 80,000, Mesquite drives billions into our Texas economy. In 1993, Mesquite earned the title of Rodeo Capital of Texas. Hosting more rodeo events than any other city in Texas, it is no surprise that thousands come to the Mesquite Championship Rodeo every year to experience an authentic cowboy spirit. Additionally, for over 25 years, it's been a Tree City USA, recognized by the National Arbor Day Foundation for preserving those iconic mesquite trees across 76 parks, a living tribute to its roots. I want to thank Leadership Mesquite and all of the elected officials that are here today, business community leaders who make the annual trip to Austin. I am proud to represent a portion of Mesquite in the Texas Senate. Thank you for being here.
Senator Johnson to close on the resolution.
Thank you, members. I move adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Chair lays out the following resolutions. The secretary will read the resolutions.
SR 312 by Hinojosa of Hidalgo, SR 370 by Parker.
This is a voice vote. Members, all in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Resolutions are adopted. Members, please take your seats. We have a memorial resolution. Chair lays out the following resolution. The secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 374 by Gutierrez. Whereas a rich and purposeful life drew to a close on May 3, 2024, with the passing of Clyde Vance Dunham of Waco at the age of 94. And whereas born in Waco on November 6, 1929, Vance Dunham grew up in Spiegelville and graduated from Waco High School. He earned his bachelor's degree from Baylor University in 1951 and his Juris Doctor degree from Baylor Law School the following year. And whereas after obtaining his admission to the bar and a short stint working for a Houston oil company, Mr. Dunham joined his father and brother at Dunham & Dunham LLP, where he worked for 7 decades. Over the course of his career, he earned a reputation as one of the most skilled and successful trial attorneys in Central Texas. He served as a mentor to hundreds of colleagues and further contributed to his professional community as president of the McLennan County Junior Bar Association and the Waco McLennan County Bar Association. Through the years, he had the pleasure of practicing with a number of family members, and he worked up until the last weeks of his life. And whereas in 1952, Mr. Dunham married Vicki Hoertz, and they shared in the joy of raising 3 children, Vance, Kathy, and Jim. After his wife's death in 1995, he found love again with Mary Lee Lafferty Harmon, whom he wed in 1997. With the passing years, he delighted in watching his cherished family grow to include numerous grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And whereas active in his community, Mr. Dunham held leadership positions in several organizations, including the Scottish Rite, the York Rite, and the Kareem Shrine, as well as the Waco JCs and the Knights of Pythias. He was also a man of faith and a lifelong member of the Methodist Church, where he taught Sunday school for many years. In his leisure time, he enjoyed cattle and hay ranching, sailing, riding his motorcycle, fly fishing, beekeeping, hunting, and any time that he could spend with his children and grandchildren. And whereas Mr. Dunham especially took pride in the history and success of Dunham & Dunham LLP, where he worked for most of his career, even up until a few weeks before his passing. And he truly loved the fact that he successfully instilled the same pride in his children and grandchildren. And whereas Mr. Dunham could not have been more loyal to his lifelong friends and employees, no matter their politics, race, or religion. In addition, he also worked tirelessly to mend all fences with those who might have become estranged. And whereas although Vance Dunham is deeply missed, memories of his wisdom, his sense of humor, and his generosity remain in comfort to inspire those he leaves behind. Now therefore be it resolved that the Senate of the State of Texas 89th Legislature hereby pay tribute to the life of Clyde Vance Dunham and extend sincere sympathy to the members of his family, to his wife Mary Lee L. Harmon, to his children Vance Dunham Jr. and his wife Irma, Kathy Dunham Pleitz and her husband Dan, and Jim Dunham and his wife Michelle, to his grandchildren Vanessa, Jennifer, Stephanie, Joshua, Jacob, Jordan, Lauren, Mason, and Rachel, to his 12 great-grandchildren, and to his other relatives and friends. And be it further resolved, when the Texas Senate adjourns this day, it do so in memory of Vance Dunham.
Chair recognizes Senator Gutierrez on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, thank you for giving me this time. You might ask yourself, what's the guy from San Antonio talking about a guy from Waco? But I got to know Vance Dunham throughout my career in this building, and I probably only spent about 5 or 6 meetings with Vance, and I'll explain to that in a minute. But I got to be really close friends with his son, Jim Dunham. Jim, if you don't mind standing up, Jim and Michelle. And Jim was the Democratic House Chair, and for some of us House-trained members, you'll remember Jim, and you worked with him. And sometimes you worked against him. And Jim taught me how to fight. Taught me how to fight for my constituents. But today's not about Jim, it's about Vance. And so I would imagine in this man that I met 5 or 6 times, that man taught his son how to fight. And every time I saw Vance, it was the same thing. Hey, Roland, have you done any good today? That was the first thing he asked. And he was a man that was full of vision and care and thoughtfulness. And I know this because I know his son. And I know this because I know his grandchildren. And so many of us, like you, Senator Creighton, that worked with Jim, you know the character of that man. So you had to have met his father. And his father was an amazing man. Imagine working 7 decades in a profession where you can do good and you can do bad. You can help the rich or you can help the poor. Vance Dunham, helped everyone. And I know this because I had Jim and his family and his father, they agreed to allow me a little corner of an office in Waco to help migrants in that community. And they said, well, let's do an immigration fair. And this was back in, I can tell you when it was the day before my father died. It was February 14th, 2015. My father died the very next day. I don't even know that Jim knows that story, but he did come down to my father's rosary, him and Michelle. And that day, on the 14th, I didn't expect my father would die. He died suddenly. On that day, I was at this immigration fair, and I had literally 300 migrant families show up. And they showed up not because of me. The vast majority of them were in some way former clients of the Dunham firm that had been there now 2 generations and 3. Imagine Vance worked with his dad, and Vance, of course, Jim, and Jim's children are lawyers now. 4 generations of lawyers in the Waco community are doing well. And over 300 sets of families came up to me, and so many of them talked to me about what Vance had done for them, what the Dunham Law Firm had done for them. Marginalized people in a community that probably didn't have a voice. And yet in this family, they had a voice. And this family was led by Vance Dunham, a man who was fair, a man who was just, a man who was good, and led his life with that principle: be just and good. Vance lived to be 94 years old, over 70 years as a lawyer. There's a poem, and I'm not going to recite that poem to you. It's called "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night." Vance Dunham didn't go gentle into that good night. He helped everyone. Didn't matter what religion, race, or color you were. That's who that man was, and that's who his family is. So today, I just want to thank Jim and Michelle and their children for giving me the opportunity to honor your father here today. Thank you, members. I move adoption.
Chair recognizes Senator Birdwell on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senator Gutierrez, thank you for the opportunity. Jim, Michelle, the entire family, our condolences go out to you. When I go down Waco Boulevard heading toward 8th Street, see your law office, and we never served together, but this body has learned just recently this week how precious life is. And even though Vance lived a very long life, the absence of a loved one is always very difficult. And so we just want to extend personally our heartfelt sorrows for you, our condolences. The Dunham name is well known in Waco and McLennan County, as Roland said. God bless each and every one of you with the passing of your father. It is not an easy day. I remember when my father passed. It's not an easy day. God bless you. Thank you for joining us today in the Senate chamber, and we'll see you in Waco in the future. Thank you, Senator Gutierrez. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Chair recognizes Senator Menendez on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Gutierrez, for bringing this resolution. I also want to add my words. I can remember, when we first come into the legislature, some of us, we don't know where the bathrooms are. And Jim, you and Michelle were so gracious to Celia and I, and didn't matter what the issues were. You just looked after a lot of young legislators, and so just like Roland mentioned, you had to learn that somewhere. And so everything I've heard today, what a gift to have! What an amazing gentleman your father was, and we're very sorry for your loss to the whole family. Thank you for sharing him with us, and thank you to the family for sharing you, Jim, with the state as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator Gutierrez to close on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move adoption.
Would all those in favor of the resolution please rise? Resolution is adopted. Members, if there's no objection, I'd like to postpone the reading and referral of bills and resolutions until the end of today's calendar. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Members, that concludes the morning call. Senator Perry, you recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1948.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, committee substitute for Senate Bill 1948, electronic registry for livestock brands. Committee substitute Senate Bill 1948 ensures that local governors cannot impose harmful or costly mandates on farmers and ranchers. Committee substitute Senate Bill 1948 protects the Texas legislature, keeping farm and ranches running efficiently, ensures the fire safety regulations that make sense in rural areas. With that, I move to suspend the regular order of business for committee substitute Senate Bill 1948.
Senator Perry moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1948. There is objection. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu.
There being 27 ayes and 3 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 1948. The Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 1948 relating to the regulation of fire prevention standards for certain agricultural facilities.
Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion.
Move passage to engrossment.
Senator Perry moves passage to engrossment. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock.
There being 27 ayes and 3 nays, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Move to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Senator Perry moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu.
There being 27 ayes and 3 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage committee substitute for Senate Bill 1948. The Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 1948 relating to the regulation of fire prevention standards for certain agricultural facilities.
Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion.
Move to final passage committee substitute Senate Bill 1948.
Senator Perry moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 1948. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock.
There being 27 ayes and 3 nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations, Senator Perry. Senator Hall, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 1394.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Ready-mix concrete trucks often face challenges complying with outdated axle and tire load restrictions that do not account for the unique operational requirements of these vehicles. This can result in inefficiency, increased operational costs, and potential penalties for truck operators. The current regulations do not align with federal standards or industry practices, creating unnecessary barriers for business transporting ready-mix concrete. What SB 1394 would do is update weight and tire load restrictions for ready-mix concrete trucks, aligning them with current federal standards. It would authorize trucks to operate with tandem axles, weights, and allow ready-mix concrete trucks to have a gross weight of up to 69,000 pounds, or the maximum allowable weight under the Federal Bridge gross weight formula. And finally, the bill would require that tire load ratings not be exceeded in order to maintain safety and prevent infrastructure damage. Mr. President and members, this bill is vitally important to ensure that our roads are safe and that CMAT truck drivers have a clear guideline for operating in Texas. And I appreciate your support, my colleagues. With that, I move suspension.
Senator Hall moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 1394. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 1394. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 1394 relating to weight and tire load restrictions for the operation of a vehicle transporting ready-mixed concrete on a public highway.
Senator Hall, you're recognized for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to passage to engrossment for SB 1394.
Senator Hall moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Hall, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Senator Hall moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, and Hosa.
There being 30 ayes and 0 nays, the rules are suspended. The Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of Senate Bill 1394. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 1394 relating to weight and tire load restrictions for the operation of a vehicle transporting ready-mixed concrete on a public highway.
Senator Hall, you're recognized for a motion.
President, I move final passage for Senate Bill 1394.
Senator Hall moves final passage of Senate Bill 1394. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces, Hinojosa, Vidalgo.
There being 30 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Senator Hancock, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 1814.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the regular order of business and consider Senate Bill 1814. Members, in 2022, the Senate Committee on Veteran Affairs was asked with an interim charge to study ways to connect veterans with existing business resources and available state services. The committee's findings led us to recommend the legislature explore the creation of an interagency database within the state's veteran agency to collect contact information of veterans exiting military services. The service database would act as a casework management system, much like we have in our offices, where the agency can track who is reaching out to the individuals, where they are located in Texas, and what services they are seeking. This would also allow the Texas Veterans Commission to proactively reach out to veterans as they move through the process of transitioning to civilian life, provided the veteran chooses to share their contact information. With that, I move suspension.
Senator Hancock moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 1814. Is there objection? Hearing none, rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 1814. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 1814 relating to creation and maintenance of an electronic database to provide information to certain veterans.
Senator Hancock, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move passage to engrossment.
Senator Hancock moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none. The bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Hancock, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
I move to suspend the constitutional rule that bills be read on 3 several days.
Senator Hancock moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores.
There being 30 ayes and 0 nays, the rules are suspended. The Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of Senate Bill 1814. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 1814 relating to creation and maintenance of an electronic database to provide information to certain members of the United States Armed Forces.
Senator Hancock, you're recognized for a motion.
I move final passage.
Senator Hancock moves final passage of Senate Bill 1814. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock.
There being 30 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is finally passed. Thank you, Senator Hancock. Senator Flores, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 241.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend the regular order of business, take up and consider Senate Bill 241. So even with the passage of House Bill 1925 in 2019, which made it a state crime to camp in public location outside of a designated campsite, many places still have open campsites throughout their cities. The burden of cleaning up these campsites has fallen on the state, which results in significant costs for abatement. Additionally, the Attorney General has found it difficult to seek injunctive relief under existing framework. Senate Bill 241 will specify that local entities must investigate and enforce violations of the public camping ban following written complaints. Once a complaint is submitted by the public, the local entity will have 90 days to resolve the complaint. If the local entity does not resolve the complaint within 90 days, the Attorney General shall issue a written declaration that the entity is violating local entity. The bill authorizes the Attorney General or Department of Public Safety to enforce the ban and allows the comptroller to withhold sales tax for the amount of money that the state spent enforcing the ban. Law enforcement can only take custody of non-hazardous personal property and not structures outside of a tent, such as semi-permanent structures. Local entities may not use designated properties for homeless individuals unless the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs has approved of the plan of designated camping. Senate Bill 241 will make changes in the law that are needed to make it easier for the enforcement of the ban and continue to allow open camping in their jurisdictions. These changes should lead to robust enforcement of the public camping ban. We passed this bill out in the 88th session, and it had bipartisan support. I hope they're able to pass it this session and send it to Governor Abbott. I move suspension.
Senator Menendez, for what purpose?
Questions of the author, Mr. President.
Senator Flores, do you yield for questions?
I do yield.
Senator Menendez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Flores. So this bill, does it do anything to further criminalize the fact that some people are currently unhoused or without shelter?
So currently, under the House Bill of 1925, having to read upside down, let me go ahead and turn this around. It's a Class C misdemeanor. This bill does not further criminalize that. It just merely, what this bill does is to require the cities or the entities to enforce the ban.
So does it do anything, and here's the concern. The city of San Antonio, like all cities, I mean, it's a statewide prohibition. It was already a citywide ordinance where you couldn't have public camping. But what they do currently, they go and they give the people who are living in these encampments, they give them a warning. The current process is, hey, this is going to happen. If you don't move out, pick up your gatherings, take them with you, they're going to come in and they may sweep them out with a mini dozer or something, and you may lose your belongings. And sometimes they help them. Does your bill punish cities or keep them from having a process to which they give people warning, or does it force them to do it on an expedited basis?
So if a complaint is written by a citizen to the city of San Antonio, they have 90 days by which they're showing they're responding.
Okay.
So, and if the state has to go in there, Senator, then TxDOT, for example, goes in there. TxDOT also has a process of notification, as I understand, in dealing with TxDOT. So the main issue here is when you have entities that are just saying, I think Senator Menendez's law is just a suggestion, and we're not going to do it. So all this does is provide a mechanism by which, for example, if you have an encampment in the neighborhood where I stay in Austin, for example, during session, if they're there in the green belt part on the other side of the fence at the house, well, then the citizens there can complain to the city of Austin, for example, and they have 90 days to resolve the issue. And of course, that's all showing that in good faith that they're doing their best to enforce the law, Senator.
Thank you. So what you're trying to do, it sounds like to me, is you're putting in place a state law that says to cities you can't ignore the state law, and if you choose to or you don't have the resources, we'll clean it, but then you need to pay us back. That's what it sounds like?
Basically put, that's it. And if you do have the camping, that it falls within community standards, it's sanitary, et cetera, so which is humane. And it doesn't further criminalize those. It's already a Class C misdemeanor. Or if they find dope when they go through, that's a different issue. All we're saying is enforce the law. And if we have to go do it, then we're going to take it out of your sales tax revenue.
So I hear what you're saying. You're telling me the reason for your law is, one, you don't want them to ignore the law. Two, you don't want neighborhoods to have encampments and the city's not do anything about them. So people who might be living with an encampment right behind their house, there has to be a balance between the rights of the people who live in their neighborhood, and they have maybe a drainage ditch and the campus are right behind them. Is that, I guess, what you're trying?
You're exactly correct. A lot of times we forget about the citizens that live in these communities, that they know it's against the law and they get frustrated by the fact that they're still there, and get further frustrated by the fact that their local government perhaps is not responding. And so all this does is says, if you don't respond, you're found, and after 90 days, you're not responding to the citizen's complaint, that if we go in and have to send state resources in there to clean it up, then we just get reimbursed. We take that out of your sales tax reimbursement.
Senator, I understand, and you're not further criminalizing these folks who, many of them through no fault of their own, they may have been foster kids, they may be former veterans, people escaping domestic violence. There's lots of reasons why people are unhoused and unsheltered, and I understand it. I just wish we were doing something to help them find a place, because maybe they have that encampment. We've now said they can't, you can protest a hotel, and I don't feel like we're doing enough as a state to help this community, but thank you for answering my questions, President.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Flores moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 241. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock.
There being 23 ayes and 7 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 241. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 241 relating to prohibitions on camping in a public place.
Senator Flores, you're recognized for a motion.
So moved.
Senator Flores moves passage to engrossment. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa.
There being 22 ayes and 8 nays, the bill's passed to engrossment. Senator Flores, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved.
Senator Flores moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores. Does that get it? Yes. Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces, Hinojosa, Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, King, Colcourse, Menendez, Middleton, Miles, Nichols, Parker.
There being 24 ayes and 6 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of Senate Bill 241. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 241 relating to prohibitions on camping in a public place.
Senator Flores, you're recognized for a motion.
So moved. Final passage.
Senator Flores moves final passage of Senate Bill 241. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces.
There being 22 ayes and 8 nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Senator Flores. Senator Birdwell, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 1147.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business, take up and consider Senate Bill 1147. Members, Texas joined the Interstate Mining Compact Commission, the IMCC, in the 1970s when lignite coal production was on the rise. However, as emphasis on new coal production in Texas has declined, the state's involvement with the IMCC is no longer beneficial as it once was. IMCC membership dues are based on the combined value of coal and non-coal mineral mining production in the state. Because of this, the abundance of non-coal products in Texas, such as aggregates, has led to an increase in our membership dues despite a decrease in no coal mining. As the high cost of our membership no longer outweighs its benefits, This bill would withdraw Texas from the IMCC and abolishes the statute that authorizes our involvement in the compact. Passage of this bill will enable the governor to notify all other IMCC states of our withdrawal, which would take effect 1 year after the notice is issued by the governor. I move suspension, Mr. President.
Senator Birdwell moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 1147. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 1147. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 1147, relating to the withdrawal of the state of Texas from the Interstate Mining Compact.
Senator Birdwell, you're recognized for a motion.
Move passage to engrossment, Mr. President.
Senator Birdwell moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Birdwell, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Senator Birdwell moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock.
There being 30 ayes and 0 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of Senate Bill 1147. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 1147, relating to the withdrawal of the state of Texas from the Interstate Mining Compact.
Senator Birdwell, you're recognized for a motion.
Move final passage, Mr. President.
Senator Birdwell moves final passage of Senate Bill 1147. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu.
There being 30 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Sparks, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 921.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move at this time to suspend the regular order of business in order to take up and consider the committee substitute for Senate Bill 921. Current federal waivers put in place during COVID allow states to use information from applications for SNAP and other public assistance programs to automatically re-enroll people on Medicaid. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 921 helps protect the Medicaid program by prohibiting the state from using information on applications for public assistance programs to conduct an ex parte or automatic renewal of the person's Medicaid eligibility. This ensures that the state does what it has traditionally done, which is use verified information to renew a person's Medicaid eligibility. This will help ensure that Medicaid resources go to those who truly need them. With that, Mr. President, I move suspension.
Senator Sparks moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 921. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall.
There being 20 ayes and 10 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 921. The Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 921, relating to conducting an ex parte renewal of a recipient's Medicaid eligibility.
Senator Sparks, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Senator Sparks moves passage to engrossment. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces.
There being 19 ayes and 11 nays, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Sparks will hold there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Senator Paxton, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 609.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move to suspend the regular order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 609. As a legislature, we pass bills to require school districts to adopt certain policies to address issues and concerns in Texas schools. Senate Bill 609 simply requires local education agencies such as school districts, charter schools, their boards of trustees or governing bodies, and their personnel to implement and act in accordance with any policy the local education agency is required by statute to adopt. I move to suspend.
Senator Paxton moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 609. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Buttoncourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces, Hinojosa, Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson.
There being 23 ayes and 7 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 609. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 609 relating to requiring independent school districts, homegrown school districts, and open enrollment charter schools to comply with legally required policies.
The following amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 1 by Menendez and Perry.
Senator Menendez, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I completely understand the spirit of this legislation. And I can tell you that when I was working on David's Law, the cyberbullying law, more than anyone, I wanted every single school district to have a cyberbullying policy. I want every school district to do everything they can. Then when we worked unanimously to also at that bill, and then secondly, the Holocaust Remembrance Week bill, I wanted every school district to embrace it, to teach the kids. But not all school districts are the same. And I remember distinctly having a conversation with our colleague, Charles Perry, Senator Perry, and he came to me and he said, Jose, I've got some school districts that are so small that even though they may want to do what your bill does, they just can't. We've got a superintendent driving a school bus. They don't have the capacity. And so this amendment is very, very simple. It simply says to our educators, our superintendents, our school board members who are working hard to invest and to comply with the high standards that we pass here, is we want to give them the ability to support legislation and through providing understanding for the school districts who are trying in good faith to comply with their policies. This provides the needed protections for the school districts who are doing their very best to find themselves in the midst of scrutiny from TEA. I find it somehow a little bit ironic that sometimes TEA will provide waivers for certain things. You know, they'll issue a waiver, but that's on a case-by-case basis, and it doesn't help everyone. And so I just would like to see a good faith effort, because I am concerned that if we don't have this, then everything we pass to make our school districts do something could be seen potentially as an unfunded mandate. Let me tell you, I would love it if we could get our student to counselor ratio down from the current 800 to 1 down to 200 to 1, but we can't afford it. That's what I'm told. And so that's what this amendment does. It's pretty simple. As you can see by the amendment, Senator Perry has joined me on it. He may have something to say about it. And so I will yield to Senator Perry. I think he's given me the signal that he'd like to say something about it.
Senator Perry, for what purpose?
Conversation with the amendment authors, which is me too.
Menendez, do you yield?
Of course I do.
Yeah, and so yesterday when you brought it up, I had not really researched a whole lot of it. I'd agree with you in principle. And I said good faith was pretty subjective, right? And so what I did is I went back and got with my rural representatives in those associations that are all rural, and they keep me abreast. And then I talked with TEA also. And what they said, that rural is covered by process today. And what I mean by that, yes, they're expected to follow state law. In that consideration, this is a policy conversation that they're supposed to develop policies to implement those laws. But in that implementation process, if they're called out, if someone files a complaint, they're not following state law, and there are policies there, but in that policy it says we don't have resource. We can't come up with, and I used an example. If we said you got to have a 1-to-20 ratio for mental health services, it's not as much as the money, and it is, but there may not actually be that kind of workforce to support that, that TEA considers all of those factors. So it's not like they're going to be punished. So at the end of that, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. It was kind of late in the day. The amendment as it's currently written probably undermines the bill author's purpose, but I got enough comfort that rural districts are still covered by process, that TEA has that formal, very, very kind of, we know that resource limitations will cause inabilities to actually comply 100%. So that's kind of where that is, and I didn't get back to you, and it's not that I'm against the premise, it's just, I think they're covered. And my rural guys were like, we're not, my rural representatives, not just the superintendents, but the actual persons that's responsible for tracking bills and stuff, we don't have a heartburn about the bill. So I'm going to have to say at that point, with the subjectiveness of it, I can't really push that through because it doesn't do my fear was and what your conversation is.
So, question: how does the process the TA would use to somehow provide TEA latitude, does that apply to small school districts, small urban or poor school districts?
I think it applies to any district that has a legitimate policy conversation that we just do not have the resource at personnel or financially or whatever reason it is. That's given a one-on-one review. From my world, it's typically a personnel issue. They just don't have the resources in the community to support those needs. Now, finances and going back to rural districts, when I say rural, we're talking 100 body school districts, right? And if you lose 10% of these through the ESA conversations, that's why I'm really guarded on making those money stay with the student and not to an online instruction. So that's those nuances that rural communities have, because fixed costs are fixed costs.
Right.
And they may not be able to add to those fixed costs just the actual people to do what we're asking them to do sometimes. So they say TA has got that latitude. They do use it very judiciously on policy conversations that we expect the school district to do, but they can't comply. So I feel comfortable they're doing that. I felt comfortable. We didn't hear a lot of uproar from the rural community. This is not going to help us at any level. It's going to cost us both not ability to do it and then what comes with non-compliance. So TEA says they use that. They already have that process. I wish I'd have gotten to you. Not a problem. I was with you in concept immediately.
Yeah.
Good faith is subjective. I said that, but let me check. And as I checked, it came back, we're good as it's currently standing. So does that help? It doesn't help you on the amendment, but at the end of the day, it gave me comfort there is a process for review where districts that are called out for, quote, not complying with state law, that TEA has a process in which they can work through to show that that's the only option on the table. I wish I could drop in a bunch of money and a lot of expertise that rural districts lack, but I will do the flip side. A lot of the rural districts don't have the same complexities of an urban district because of sheer numbers. You know, in a 100 student population body, you probably know every kid and every parent knows every kid. So there's a different environment, which a lot of the issues that some of our urban, but to your point, poor districts and rural districts, a lot alike, don't have some of the hard issues that we're trying to solve from a state level. So it's a fortunate place to be, but they still miss out on some things too.
Understood.
All right.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Again, intent, but I don't think it fits the need that I thought it was going to try to address.
Good.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So in closing, Mr. President, I just want to say that whether TEA has a process or not, this amendment protects your school district. And if you have a school district that can't afford to have a police officer on every campus, or has a trouble finding a guardian, or has trouble paying for the upgrades we want, this says I'm making a good faith effort. And that's what this amendment does. And believe me that if you vote for this amendment, we pass it, your school districts will be happy. I move adoption of floor amendment number 1.
Senator Gutierrez, for what purpose?
Well, the gentleman, the author, yield for a question.
The author of the amendment, do you yield, Senator Menendez?
Yes, Mr. President, I yield.
Yeah, that came out wrong, didn't it?
Senator
the author of
Gutierrez,
the amendment, yield for a question. There you go. Now I can speak English.
It's your second language. It's okay.
That's right. Senator Menendez, we passed some legislation last session, did we not?
We did.
On school safety, correct?
Yes, we did.
I had a bill that would have put a cop in every school paid for by the state of Texas. That bill went nowhere.
Correct.
You're aware?
I am.
And yet, as a body, we said that every school would have a police officer. And that was passed. That did pass, did it not?
Yes, or a marshal.
Right, or a marshal with no funding behind it. And so poor and rural school districts had to go out and make choices in this space as to who they were going to cut to bring in the marshal or the cop, correct?
Yes.
With no funding help from the state of Texas.
That's correct.
And that's what you're talking about here today.
Yes, that's one of the many issues that I'm talking about.
One of many, many, many unfunded mandates that this legislative body and the one across the hall there does over and over again, and you're just giving us a safety valve by your amendment.
Absolutely. I just look, I want the school districts to abide by every single law we pass. I want them to have, whether they choose a police officer, a marshal, resource officer, I want them to all abide by David's law, the cyberbullying law, Holocaust Remembrance Week. But some of them say we don't have the personnel, the capacity, et cetera. And so if they make a good faith, if they can show us, then I'm good with that. But I'm trying to help us make sure that our school districts don't feel like we're providing any more unfunded mandates.
Well, I know that there was an exchange here between you and Senator Perry. I know of no such district that has found a way out of the police officer piece, and they've been stuck with that unfunded mandate. So I want to thank you. I think this is a good amendment.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Move adoption.
Chair recognizes Senator Paxton on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Menendez. And we talked a little bit about this in the hearing on the bill. And I appreciate you recognizing the spirit of this is certainly not going at creating some sort of backdoor way of creating unfunded mandates. The purpose of the bill is simply to really marry up the intention that we have as a legislature that we don't just want districts to adopt policies, but also to adhere to those policies. And so with great respect, I'll be opposing the amendment.
Senator Paxton, to clarify, you will be opposing the amendment?
Oppose the amendment, yes.
The Secretary will call the roll on the amendment.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa of Nueces, Hinojosa of Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson.
There being 11 ayes and 19 nays, the amendment fails. Correction on the vote count. There being 12 ayes and 18 nays, the amendment fails. Chair recognizes Senator Paxton for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Senator Paxton moves passage to engrossment. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa of Nueces, Hinojosa of Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, Colcourse, Menendez.
There being 23 ayes and 7 nays, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Paxton will hold there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
$660. Senator West, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 660.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. At this time, I'd move to suspend the regular order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 660. In recent history, reports of crashes at hospitals or emergency rooms entrances have surged, members. This issue has not only intensified in Texas, but also been reported across the United States, resulting in numerous tragedies. According to media and official reports in the United States, there have been over 400 crashes into medical facilities in the last decade, and 22 of those have resulted in fatalities. Additionally, in the state of Texas alone, there's been more than 100 incidents since 2014. As an example, in February of 2024, a sedan smashed into an emergency room right here in Austin at St. David's North Austin Medical Center. One person was reported deceased, and 5 others were injured, including a family of 4. In response, we need to look at Senate Bill 660 to take these safety measures and implement instances that will help with these particular tragedies. Senate Bill 660 will require the Executive Commissioner of Health and Human Services to adopt rules as necessary to implement security measures, including putting bollards or other similar safety barriers near emergency rooms or entrances that are located near areas where vehicles often travel. We've heard some of the issues associated with it, and we've responded, Mr. President. We have made certain that rural areas are exempted from this particular bill. The definition that we use for rural area is based on what we have as counties with a population of less than 68,000, or a hospital that has been designated by Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services as critical access hospitals, rural referral centers, And we've used also the definition that's in our appropriation bill for rural hospitals. In addition, we've heard the issues concerning hospitals that already have these bollards in place or a similar type of effective device. If they haven't been placed before the effective date of this particular bill, they will no longer need these particular bollards. So at this point, I'd move suspension of the regular order of business.
Senator West moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 660. There is objection. The secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagan, Booth, Hall.
There being 21 ayes and 9 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 660. The secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 660 relating to the installation of bollards or another safety barrier adjacent to certain hospital emergency rooms.
Senator West, you're recognized for a motion.
Move passage to engrossment.
Senator West moves passage to engrossment. The secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagan, Booth, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces.
There being 21 ayes and 9 nays, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator West will hold there.
I think we will.
Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 2155.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Senate Bill 2155 is the TBVME cleanup bill, Texas Veterinary Medical Examiners Board. They were transferred over to TDLR for a couple of years through sunset. This bill basically is taking that back from the transition of where they've been with TDLR. They've done masterful. TDLR's done a masterful job of mentoring them and how to run an agency that's enforcement-centric with licensing and permitting. So that is now transitioning back to the TBVME board as it was supposed to through sunset. This bill is fairly comprehensive in nature, but yet it's based on recommendations from TDLR to go back to their own governing board. With that, I move to suspend regular order of business on committees on Senate Bill 2155.
Senator Perry moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 2155. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 2155. The secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 2155 relating to the regulation of veterinary professionals and facilities by the State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners.
The following amendment.
Floor amendment number 1 by Perry.
Senator Perry, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. These are amended sections after conversations with both the board of TDLR as well as the TDMVE Medical Examiners Board. This is things as cleanup that came through. There are 9 different items that are fairly definitional in nature and clarifying some of the statutes that both boards agree on as far as the transfer back need to be done. Move adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. The following amendment.
Floor amendment number 2 by Birdwell.
Senator Birdwell, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this amendment removes changes made to Section 801.158 and 801.502 of the Occupations Code. Specifically, it restores current law, ensuring that enforcement actions brought by the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners are not automatically filed in a Travis County District Clerk. Instead, the amendment preserves the existing venue rules which are twofold. One, if the individual resides in Texas, the case will be heard in the county of their residence. And two, if the defendant is not an individual, the case will be heard in the county where the defendant's principal office is located. I move adoption, Mr. President. And I believe it's acceptable to the author. I would move adoption, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator Perry on the amendment.
Amendment is acceptable to the author. That was through committee testimony, and nobody were in disagreement with it. So appreciate Senator Birdwell working on that amendment. Acceptable to the author, moved adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? Hearing no objection, the amendment's adopted. Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion.
Move passage and engrossment, Senate Bill 2155.
Senator Perry moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill's passed to engrossment. Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Move to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Senator Perry moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall.
There being 28 ayes and 2 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of Senate Bill 2155. The Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 2155, relating to the regulation of veterinary professionals and facilities by the State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners.
Senator Perry, you're recognized for a motion.
Move final passage, Senate Bill 2155.
Senator Perry moves final passage of Senate Bill 2155. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock.
There being 28 ayes and 2 nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Perry. Senator Hughes, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1209.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business to take up and consider at this time committee substitute Senate Bill 1209. This is the bill we passed yesterday, standardizing our elections, increasing voter turnout, and shortening that runoff period. And I move suspension of the regular order of business.
Senator Hughes moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1209. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu.
There being 20 ayes and 10 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 1209. The Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 1209, relating to election dates.
Senator Hughes, you're recognized for a motion.
Mr. President, I move final passage, Senate Bill 1209.
Senator Hughes moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 1209. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall.
There being 20 ayes and 10 nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senators.
Members, this is the last bill of the day. Senator Hall, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1396.
So moved, Mr. President.
Senator Hall moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1396. There is objection. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Nueces, Hinojosa, Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, King, Colcourse.
Up here. Yeah. There being 19 ayes and 11 nays, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage committee substitute for Senate Bill 1396. The Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute, Senate Bill 1396, relating to prohibiting the adoption or use of national sex education standards in public schools.
Senator Hall, you're recognized for a motion.
Move final passage for committee substitute for Senate Bill 1396, Mr. President.
Senator Hall moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 1396. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbuch.
There being 19 ayes and 11 nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
The following bills on first reading in reference to the committee, the Secretary will read the bills.
Senate Bill 2332 by Parker, relating to aircraft owned and operated by the Department of Public Safety to border security. Senate Bill 3040 by Eckhart, relating to removal of territory from certain emergency services districts to local government. Senate Bill 3041 by Bettencourt, relating to increasing the criminal penalties for insider trading and other misuse of official information to criminal justice.
The President's desk is clear. Are there any announcements? Senator Bettencourt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. The Senate Committee on Education K through 16 will reconvene at 1:30 sharp today, April 8th, in E1.028 to continue our committee agenda. Hope that meets with your approval, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Bettencourt. Senator Schwartner, you're recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the Senate Committee on Business and Commerce will reconvene at 1:30 in E1.012.
Senator Flores, you're recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Committee on Criminal Justice will reconvene at 1:35 p.m. in E1.016 on committee business.
Senator Hall, you're recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the Senate Committee on Administration will meet at 1:15 in the Betty King Room to take up legislation and consider the local and uncontested calendar.
Senator Kolkhorst, you're recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the Senate Health and Human Services Committee will meet on the Senate floor right here at 1:45.
Are there any other announcements? Chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate for a highly privileged motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until 11 a.m. Wednesday, April 9th, in memory of Clyde Vance Dunham, based on a resolution adopted today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Kolkhorst for a quick announcement.
Dean, I apologize. I've been informed that we did post for 2 p.m. or upon adjournment, so I correct my motion, Mr. President, that the Senate Health and Human Services Committee will meet here in the Senate floor, in the Senate chamber at 2 p.m. today.
Is there objection to the dean's motion? The chair hears none. The Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. Wednesday, April 9th.